Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Follow the Leader. I'm your host, Lee, and I am so honored to introduce y'all to Reilly Neill.
Hi, thanks for having me here today.
For being here.
Yeah.
Folks, Reilly Neill is running for U.S. Senate for Montana. She's from east of the Divide over in Livingston, Park County. That's kind of near Bozeman for those who aren't too familiar. And what I love about you and what you focused on so much that I've seen is you're really giving the ag and farmers a voice. Can you talk about your conversations you've had in the ag community?
Sure, sure. Since I launched my campaign, which was the day after the election in 2024, I started in far eastern Montana, Plentywood, Sydney, Glendive, and I have been working my way back west and then back east again and back west. But in doing so, I primarily go to rural counties, and ag production is their primary economic driver. So when you're on the ground in a community like Sydney or Culbertson, you're talking to folks who this is their livelihood. This is their multi-generational family business in many cases. And what I'm hearing on the ground right now is that DC simply isn't delivering for these folks.
Oh, can you talk about when you say DC is not delivering?
Mhm.
Um, is it subsidies? Is it insurance? Is it just support? What does that look like? And how are
Yeah.
Montana farmers being hung out to dry?
Yeah. Well, what it really looks like as far as subsidies is I don't know a single farmer or rancher who wants to be paid at the mailbox instead of the market. So folks want to get a fair price for what they're producing, and they want to, make their money off a hard day's work, not subsidies, because those are limited, they're disaster based, they're not a plan for the future. And farmers and ranchers need security. They deal with a lot of variables, kind of security that we could bring with a farm bill. So right now, our farm bill is so far overdue. We need the security of a farm bill right now in Montana. And honestly, I don't see any of the congressional delegation in DC speaking to that. And they're certainly not speaking to the producers on the ground about that. And that I would say is the top priority is getting that farm bill sorted out, getting it passed, and getting that security on the ground for the farmers and ranchers. I'd say biggest thing I'm hearing about on the ground right now, and we've heard a lot of things over the last 15 months, but we're talking about tariffs. We're talking about a 35% tax on Canadian goods. That means if you need a part that's $2,000, you're paying 35% on that. Most of our fertilizer is coming from Canada. So these producers in rural Montana are getting hit hard. And some folks may say, what could Steve Daines do about tariffs? Well, I'll tell you what, he'd call up his buddy Trump, and stop this nonsense. They need some impulse control in DC, and if they don't have it, it hurts us down the line, our ag producers here in Montana.
Absolutely. We talk about security and long-term planning. I mean, it's middle of February. Look around. It's brown. We're not getting a lot of snow this year. Are you hearing stories of drought or how that's impacting farmers?
I am. I was just in Browning a couple nights ago, and there at the Blackfeet Nation, they had an open public meeting with some members of the tribal council who were present to talk about drought in that area. They've been in a persistent drought for 4 or 5 years now, and especially on tribal lands, you have a lot of bureaucracy that's going to stop people from being able to create the storage that they need to, from creating water stations that they may need to create. So I just heard that specifically 2 nights ago, and there were about 50, 75 people who showed up, landowners, land users, tribal members who were really concerned and talking about drought in really clear terms. I think at one point, a gentleman said, the geophysicists have told us what's coming. Now we have to build, resistance and resilience to that. And that I think is true across the board, across Montana. As far as other specific on the ground needs, again, I go back to those tariffs. Like, we don't make all the soybeans that get exported from Montana, here in Montana. I mean, exported from America here in Montana. But the folks who do, produce those soybeans, they are struggling. They are hurting. We hear that. I get emails and people send me messages on social media all the time saying specifically, this is what my community or my farm or ranch is dealing with. And we try our best to address every single one of those issues. Again, with a farm bill, with some security, folks in our rural areas that are making money and a living, if they're lucky, off farming and ranching in Montana, they're struggling. They're really struggling. And DC just seems to be, they seem to be tuning those folks out.
Yeah. Well, and then also, like you said, there's folks that are affiliated with DC that claim to be for Montana and then turn right around and do something like jeopardize what American Prairie has been working towards with the
Right.
bison. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, a lot of folks in rural Montana are upset with the American Prairie Reserve. And they feel like it's unfair that folks can come in and purchase this land. Well, it's a free market. So punishing the people on the ground who have been working with the Bison Working Group and other groups to create real solutions that work for both ag producers and both folks at the Prairie Reserve, other organizations that are interested in grasslands preservation or preservation of, conservation of wildlife. All of these people work together for decades to create these plans by compromising and by coming up with good solutions that works for everyone. So coming down with some kind of blanket statement and saying this is now how it's going to be without considering how much work the people of Montana and with in coordination with tribes and other organizations and stakeholders have how much we've done,
Right.
how much progress we've made. It just seems short-sighted and ignorant, which is a lot of what I'm hearing about our DC delegation on the ground in rural Montana.
Absolutely. And one of the things that voters can start thinking about is how can we get rid of some of these DC folks? But again, questions about election integrity.
Right.
So can you talk to us about any of the conversations you've had about election integrity, either with constituents or others?
Yes. Well, we're going to every single elections office in the entire state, every county elections office. And I'm just going to tell all your viewers this. If you're in Montana and heck, in the country, but especially in Montana, I check your voter registration, make sure that you're still on the rolls. You can call your elections office, your county elections office. You can go down there, make sure to thank them for their good work. And you can also check it online, but I'd recommend calling or going in. We're visiting with every single elections official in the state, on the ground, in the counties. And I can tell you, we can trust these individuals. They are working hard to protect our privacy, to make sure that there's integrity in every single person who registers, to make sure that person can register and is valid to vote in Montana. I'll tell you what, there's 5 or 6 different fail safes for that, so it's not like someone who is in this country illegally is voting. That's not gonna happen in our elections offices in Montana for all the different people working to make sure that our privacy is protected, our votes are counted, and that there's absolute accountability for anyone who signed up and registered to vote. And most people in Montana vote absentee. The numbers that we're hearing are between 65 and 80% of the people in Montana
Wow.
vote absentee. Yeah. Shoot, we even talked to one elections official who said we asked him because absentee voting and voting in person, they're like 2 different elections,
Mm.
because you have to do 2 different processes. And during COVID, it was all absentee. So there's some individuals who work through that. And so we always ask them, was it easier just to do one bit? And one person, I think she was in Dawson County, she said, "Well, I prefer the in-day voting as far as an administrator, but I personally vote absentee."
Hmm.
So, in
Yeah.
Montana, it's nice to have the choice. People are used to sitting down at their kitchen table and writing out their ballots. A lot of families do it together. It's a tradition in Montana. So I know that leadership and the Secretary of State's office and even for at a federal level, There's a push to nationalize our elections, and there's a push to get rid of absentee voting, which doesn't make sense for Montana.
No.
We're a rural state. If there's something you need to know about voting, it's get it done early,
Right.
and I would say too, this year, 2026, if you can drop your ballot directly to the elections office, go ahead and do it. If you have to mail it, so be it, but that's going to streamline the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was something that has been in talks for several years, not just necessarily Montana, but everywhere. It just seems like the whole democratic institution has been questioned, thrown up, and we're having to rebuild so
Yeah.
much of what a lot of folks have taken a wrecking ball to.
Yeah, absolutely. And those folks in our elections office, I'll tell you, go down there, Lee, say hi. I think Terry's your election administrator here in Cascade County, and say, hey, can you tell me how it works? And they will show you everything. It's a completely transparent process. And these are public offices, and these are folks who are working for us, and they're working hard. I mean, when you start counting, we heard in Hill County yesterday, we start counting, we can't stop.
Right.
So you have to have shifts of people ready to work. They work for 37 hours straight in the last election. So in the last major election, there have been municipal elections and other elections that have taken place since some of these new laws went into effect. One of them is a requirement you put your birth date, your 4-digit birth year, onto the back of an envelope when you sign it to vote. So making sure that's on there is real important. Making sure you sign your ballot too if you're voting absentee. But if for some reason you mess up, you're going to get a call from your elections office. In Hill County, they've instigated a texting feature too. So they can text you, they call you, they send you a letter. So it's not like your vote's not going to be counted. It just might be a little harder for the folks doing the work to
Mhm.
count. So it's important that if we can help them, because boy, when they start 37 hours, and I think in Bozeman, that number was around 72 hours. So when they start counting, we want to make it as easy for
Yeah,
them as possible.
absolutely. Because sorry, I'm writing when we talk about these, as we said, the people that are here, these DC, these corrupt folks that don't seem to represent Montana's best interests. Big topic right now are these AI data centers
Oh
and the
yeah.
water. And we just talked about a drought, folks. So,
Mhm.
what are the conversations you've been having around AI data centers?
Well, I've attended every one of the AI data center public meetings that's been held in the last couple of weeks here in Montana. There's one in Broadview where the Quantica facility is proposed. The Quantica facility is going to use as much power every day as the state of Montana, and millions of gallons of water that it doesn't sound like Broadview has.
Mm,
I also attended one in Billings, also about the Broadview Center. I've been to one in Butte last year. There's already a data center in Butte, nearby Butte, that uses as much electricity as the entire city of Helena
mm,
every day. And they're smaller data centers. There's a data center underneath a building in Butte, Montana. Now that data center has an actual closed cooling center. I think it's maybe 1 megawatt or something.
yeah,
It's very small, but they have a closed cooling system, and they also heat a 7-story building with it. So there are ways we can develop this. There is another data center as well right here in Great Falls. I think you were at that too.
mhm, yeah,
Now, right now, there aren't any data centers proposed for Great Falls, but this Quantica Center in Broadview, it sounds like it has the support of the governor. It has the support of the DC delegation. What it doesn't have is the support of the people of Broadview,
mm,
because like 120, 150 people showed up there, and they were not having it.
yeah,
And there were some union representatives, and I'm strong pro union, but there were union representatives there that were saying this is going to bring jobs. I'd need to research that because my research does not show a significant hiring by any of these companies. In fact, a feature of the satellite images of these data centers and the one that's already in Butte are empty parking lots.
right,
So I'm not sure that this is gonna bring any jobs to Montana.
Yeah.
I do know that we don't want our power bills to rise, and I do know we don't wanna call on our water. I know that from being in rural Montana. Water is gold, water is life here, and to talk about taking the small bit of water they have in Broadview, their shallow wells that are feeding their livestock, I mean, almost everyone in that room, was a stock grower,
Yeah.
and that's you can't have dry ponds. You have to have water.
Yeah.
And what they're talking about is taking that water and the scarce resources anyways,
Yeah.
and then using it to power an AI data center. I'm just not I'm not convinced that this is the way to go for Montana at all.
Uh-huh. And on the flip side, we have the AI data centers, but then we have something like there's so many AI questions to ask. I mean, AI
Right.
in privacy, AI in healthcare, and it's moving so much faster
Yeah.
than legislators, lawmakers, I mean, attorneys. It's unnerving. It feels a little too much, I think, even. And so thank you for speaking
Sure,
out.
and
And
of course it feels like that because it's it's AI, it's training and training. Of course, most of these the AI data centers are it's the training of and not the actual us Googling something, it's how you train AI to be Google,
yeah,
and that's what takes so much power. And I just I'm just really disappointed in our leadership, but I'm
mhm,
not surprised. I mean, there are a few Montana news sources that will tell people what Greg Gianforte did for a living before he was our governor. They say tech millionaire. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means he was data mining. He worked for a company that did cloud computing. And he owned a company that pioneered cloud computing, which is all done in AI data centers. So we have a governor who's self enriching with this technology that works for him. It works for his hip pocket,
right.
but it does not work for the stock growers of Broadview.
No, not at all. Well, when you think about something like Gianforte or Sheehy or like you said, these massive corporate faces that just
Yeah.
seem to like come to Montana and set up camp and then dole out Montana resources to corporations, and it's very nice to hear you say like, that's
That is, I'm not even taking corporate dollars.
a
I'm not taking any dark money at all in my campaign. Right now, we've raised about $153,000. That was the last count from small dollar donations. I've put some money of my own, some skin in the game, early on, and I'm glad I did. But almost all of our donations are from Montanans. They're small dollar donations, $7 to $15. And there are folks who say you can't win without millions and millions of dollars. I say being on the ground is worth more than gold.
mm,
And I also know that we did not win a US Senate seat with $153 million
right,
last cycle. That wasn't enough.
mhm,
So obviously, this whole idea that money is the barometer of success in Montana politics, well, if anywhere can, upend that, it's going to be Montana, which has a history of upending corporate control.
yeah,
And we can start right here with our elections, not afterwards. And I do hear from critics who say, you've got to play the game in order to win the game. Well, John Tester was there for 18 years playing that game, and we've still got dark money in
yep,
politics.
right,
So you actually have to live your values.
you know,
I think that's the way forward.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And so when you look at either the current person, what do you think makes you a better senator for the Montana people?
I show up. I show up. Where are you, Steve Daines? He's not showing up. He wasn't in Browning at the drought meeting. Those folks have to go to DC
Yeah,
to talk to him if they want an audience. He wasn't in Havre. No, he wasn't in Sydney and Glendive, where, I mean, a lot of his voters talk to me. And every time I go to a community, I reach out to as many people as possible. Certainly, we'll hold events, but I'm also on the ground reaching out to people. And there's a gentleman who voted for Danes out in far eastern Montana. And since that vote, he's lost an investment in an alternative fuels plant. He's lost his seasonal worker who came to help him out from Mexico when he was disabled. And that person went back to Mexico and disappeared out of Denver. And I can tell you, we get so many individuals who contact us because they've tried Danes's office and
Yeah.
they've been unresponsive and not just sending letters. There were some tribal members from Fort Belknap who were worried about going, some elderly tribal members who were worried about going down to Texas for emergency kidney surgery because they weren't sure they had the proper ID and what should they do if ICE tried to detain them. Now, I would imagine if I was in that situation, I would call my congressperson. I would call my senator and congress people and say, "What should we do? We at least want you to know we're there in case something happens to us." There's real fear and real terror. And Danes was not responsive to these Montanans. So there's not much I can do yet for constituent service until I'm elected. But we can connect people with immigration lawyers, some of them who work pro bono or will give free referrals or, at least hear out somebody's story and see if they can help them.
Yeah.
But so we're already doing the work they're not doing. So that's what differentiates me. Also, I, s- I step up.
Mm.
Also, I'm not going to DC to die. I'm going to go serve for 2 terms if Montana will have me and wants me to represent them. And then I'm going to come back to Montana. I'm not going to die in DC. And the whole time I'm serving, I'm going to be lifting up as many people as I can on the ground to be a part of that service and absolutely fostering a succession of leaders and not just losing and wondering what happens next.
Right.
Like we need to be building and building for the sake of our ag producers, for the sake of our schools, for the sake of our access to health care, our cost of living. I mean, oh my God, we could go on, Lee. There's so many issues on the ground that Danes just flat out doesn't care about.
Absolutely. Well, and I am glad that you brought up ice because that is a
Yeah.
here in Montana we're supposed to have snow. It's not really doing that, but it looks like we might actually be getting ice. There's some news out of Helena. Can you talk about what is going on in
Mhm.
Montana with ice and what your thoughts are?
Well, I think what happened in Freud is is what's going to happen in Montana if ICE shows up. In Freud, we have someone who was trying to get citizenship. And I know many people who are trying to get citizenship. It is a long, arduous, expensive process. That shows how out of touch Danes is.
Hmm.
Does he even? I mean, if it were me, I would have been on the ground in Freud here in Great Falls at the hearing with this gentleman. This is a gentleman from a small Montana community who is fixing their school bus at -40. This is a person that people depend on to fix their equipment. Now they don't have someone to fix their equipment out there in Freud. So this is a kid's sports coach. Was he working diligently on getting his immigration status sorted? Yes, it takes a long time. And ICE doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're trying to make quotas. So if you come to Montana trying to make a quota, you're going to have to deal with the Montana people. So the people of Freud, Montana have stepped up to support Roberto. I mean, it's made national
Mm.
news now, and that's going to be the trend. Whatever the outcome of Gianforte and Knudsen, you know, dabbling their toes in Helena's, municipal governance, the reality is people in Montana, like this gentleman I was telling you about from Far East Montana who depended on trained trained labor, someone who already knows how to work on a ranch, coming from Mexico and helping him out when he was disabled because of the worker shortage. Those are the people getting hurt
Right.
when and the people who need their school buses fixed and the people who need their equipment fixed and where's their coach and where's this member of the community? We have 1.1 million people here in Montana. Every single one of us counts. even if it's someone working towards citizenship. We have a Liberian refugee who is twice elected the popular mayor of Helena, Lamont Collins. This is who we are in Montana. It's really hard to shake us at our core. So if they're going to come here trying to make quotas, they're going to have another thing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
When you look at the next couple of months, what's
Mhm.
your schedule look like? How can folks, come listen to you?
Yeah. Well, much like some politicians of the past in Montana, uh, I have I have a personal phone number, and you can give it a call anytime, 24 hours a day. People can call me at my number anytime. They can email me at my campaign team anytime. I am going to be on the ground, Lee, much like when we first chatted here, when we first met here. I told you what my schedule had looked like the last couple of days, and it looks like that going forward. So basically, any place we can be where we can hear from Montanans, not just public forums, not just town halls. We are planning a series of town halls specifically geared towards data centers in some
Okay.
of our larger cities to get more feedback and to show the DC delegation we're serious. This is a serious issue in Montana. We're also having public events constantly. You can follow my social media, sign up for our regular emails. But all in all, if I find or my team finds out that there is a meeting or a get together or the community's coming together for some reason or another where there'll be issues of importance discussed, I want to be right there on the ground.
Yeah.
I try very hard to go in places that they don't expect to see a Democrat
Yeah.
because I believe the way through what we are experiencing in our country today is this
Mhm.
is our communication with each other, our openness to communicate with each other. At this recent drought meeting, there were some heated words. People had differing opinions. People um, weren't going to agree on everything. But if we can hold space for people to have those conversations, if we can be part of those conversations in the next few months, that's absolutely my priority. It's just being on the ground. It's hard to cover 56 counties in a couple of months. And you can place as many ads as you want on television or billboards. But if you're not meeting with people on the ground, you're not serving them and they have no frame of reference.
Yeah.
People aren't just going to take someone else's word for whether or not you're a good candidate. Like, I appreciate that Governor Schweitzer has endorsed me. I've been friends with the governor for a long time, and he has always given me lots of great wisdom, and I've taken some of it. But, I appreciate that endorsement, but that's just an endorsement from someone that people like and admire in Montana. When they meet me, when they talk to me, when they feel that their concerns are being addressed, like those individuals we set up with an immigration lawyer before they had to go have
Mhm.
emergency surgery, that's where my heart is. That's where my work is. That service
Yep.
is going to continue. And I encourage anyone who is having trouble reaching the congressional delegation in DC for Montana to reach out to my team and we'll do our best to help you.
The one thing you brought up at the very end
Mhm.
was, and that is next on my list, was healthcare in
Right.
Montana.
Hmm.
Um, Again, I've heard different rumors. I've heard some things about perhaps a single payer option one
Hmm.
day. Um, what have you heard, and what are some of the conversations?
I think people just want to see the plan. They want to see Medicare for all or universal health care. I mean, that's what we've heard on the ground for over 15 months. And especially with what just happened with the shutdown.
Yeah.
And now what so many of us are feeling every month when we pay our health insurance bills, unless we're part of a larger plan, that is a huge issue
Yeah.
that's that we can't wait for another shutdown.
Right.
We need, much like with the farm bill, we need security in our healthcare plans. So we need a shutdown proof healthcare plan.
Yeah.
And I do believe something along the lines of Healthy Montana Kids could work for the whole nation. And we've been reaching out to other senatorial offices. Chris Murphy's office, they're for single payer. They have a lot of information to share with us. Elizabeth Warren's office, they're for Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different plans already being worked on by really effective senators in DC. And so we're coordinating with their offices to get that information, be prepared, hit the ground running, and also have a plan that we come with
Mhm.
from Montana that is loosely based on the Healthy Montana Kids model, but we're just calling it universal health care as a proposal.
Well, and that's relieving for a lot of folks and as
Mhm.
well as, well, we'll believe it when we see it. You know
Right.
what I
And
mean?
yeah, and it's expensive. I ran a business for 15 years that had health insurance for my employees. So I know as a member of a group or as a member of the military, you're a member of of a group, you know, your premiums are lessened, your, you know, your out of pocket is lessened. Why can't we somehow apply that? Even if the savings aren't as much as you may see if you're, part of the military, if you're working for a corporation that has group plan. We could use this as a model. We don't need to just throw it all out and say it never work, and we should just let all the insurance companies and the hospitals make money hand over fist. That's not a solution. We have some skin in that game too. And how we develop that is really going to be dependent on what we hear from Montanans.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, we're just about out of time. Can you tell or share with the audience how they can donate, volunteer, or get
Sure.
in touch with you?
Sure. Well, first of all, vote. Check your registration.
That too.
Yeah, make sure that you check your registration and that you are still on the voter rolls.
Yeah.
That's so important. I can't say it enough everywhere I go because our leadership is deeply, deeply flawed. And we won't say why or how deep, but we will say that we can trust our elections officials. So if there's one thing that you
Yeah.
can do, it's nonpartisan, it transcends,
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, is vote and get out there and make sure that you are registered and that you have determined whether you want absentee or whether you're going to vote in person. People can find me at reillyformontana.com, REILLYFOR, Montana spelled out.com. And you can also email me at info@reillyformontana.com. But mainly, just show up in your community. Talk to your friends and neighbors. That's so important. Don't give up. Don't lose hope because there are so many people on the ground working for a better world for our nation right now and our state. And once you start having conversations, then, you know, it's
Oh, okay. That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. It's all
okay,
good.
sorry. So I'll just give you one
Yeah,
little
yeah,
close up.
please.
So definitely get out there, check your registration and vote. But most of all, have conversations with your community, within your community.
Yeah.
Engage with people on the ground. This is the way that we're going to transcend some of the nightmare, let's be real, that we're seeing on the ground across our country and the undermining of all of these tenets of democracy in our constitutional republic that are being undermined, overturned. We can change that. We're the people.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Lee.
No, thank you. And
Yes.
folks, I hope that y'all enjoyed that. That was, again, I love how much you emphasize the ag, the farmer,
Mhm.
and 'cause we grow so much of the country and a lot of the world too. Uh,
Yeah.
wheat, soybean, there is so much. Canola is another one I think coming up.
Yeah, canola and soy. We grow soybeans. We grow even corn.
Yep.
We grow hard red spring Durham wheat, which is a specialized crop that makes the best pasta in the world. We grow it right here in Montana. We grow all kinds of wheat, and these folks who are at the who are on the ground floor of growing these crops for us, they are ensuring our food supply. So it's really important that we pay attention to what they need.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, folks, that was Reilly Neill running for Montana Senate, U.S. Senate here in Montana. She's east of the divide, like I said, out of Livingston. But she is going north to south, east to west. Make sure you check her out at her next campaign stop because you're busy. You're
I'm busy, but I'm working for you.
working for you.
Yep.
Folks, that's Reilly Neal, and I'm your host, Lee Larson. Thank you for another great episode of Follow the Leader. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Let me know, what did you think of this? All right, folks, I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.
Thanks so much, Lee. I
Yeah.
hope he didn't go on too long.
Oh my God. Hey, you're great.